Hello everyone, welcome to this training session on statistical data analysis using SPSS. My name is Vamsidhar. As a part of this session, let's look at analyzing the individual variables, especially the nominal and the ordinal variables. As we have discussed in our earlier sessions, the data could be represented in the form of nominal or ordinal or even scale. Nominal and ordinal are more of categorical variables, whereas a scale is more like a quantified or probably quantitative variable is generally represented through scale in SPSS. And just a quick recap. Nominal is the ones where the order, you have quantified the data where order really doesn't matter. Whereas in case of ordinal variables, where order matters or order has importance, we have classified them as ordinal variables. Now, the first thing which we do in any kind of a statistical analysis, the moment someone has given a data to us and asked us to analyze on that, whatever may be the requirement, the first thing we may have to do is to understand the individual variables, whether they are nominal or ordinal or even a scale. It's always advised that we need to understand these variables in isolation before taking them as a part of our conclusion making process or even our forecasting or prediction processes. So in this chapter, I would be covering primarily the nominal and ordinal variables, what all we can do on one variable at a time, and in the next session, I would be dealing with the scale variables. So the first important thing for us whenever we look at any individual variable is why should we analyze the individual variables? So they help us in providing the first look at the data. What does that mean? Which values are most commonly occurring? Which range of values are most commonly occurring? Which of them are very rarely occurring kind of values? Right? So it gives me some kind of a initial feel of my data. And at the same time, it also helps me to understand the adequacy or the sufficiency of the observations. Did I collect enough data? Do I have enough records in each of the subcategories so that I can perform better statistical tests later? Do I have enough number of representations in each of the categories so that if at all I have to do some kind of statistical tests or statistical predictions or forecastings at a later point, do I have the adequate data or do I need to collect some more data elements? Even that can very well be assessed by doing an individual variable summarization. And also it helps me in assessing whether there are any kind of missing values in my data and basically assessing the quality related. Sometimes people have entered some garbage as a part of the data. So how good is my data? How much of garbage is present in the data? All these things can very well be assessed just by doing an individual variable analysis. So as I said, in this session, I would be looking at the individual variable analysis only for nominal as well as ordinal data. So going back to our data set, which I have explained earlier, just a quick recap on our data set, a typical patient based, individual based data, where the various people specific to gender, marital status, the smoking status, the education, category, the age, height, weight, some physical dimensions of that person, along with some health related aspects like pulse rate, blood pressure, cholesterol levels, etc., have been captured for various males and females. Now, using this specific data, in this, as we are knowing, you go back to the variable view. The gender and the marital status are coded as nominal here. Why gender? Male, female. There is no order. Probably here we have represented 0 means male, 1 means female. Even if I have reversed it, there is no sequencing that male is greater than female or female is greater than male. So that kind of a data we can consider as a nominal data. Same thing with the marital status. We have coded it as 0 means single, 1 means married, and so on. Even here also the order doesn't matter. Whereas when it comes to smoking status, probably I can consider this as ordinal because there is some level of hierarchical relationship in the values. Non-smoker, occasional smoker, heavy smoker. So there is some level of increasing relationship from 0, 1, 2 in terms of the smoking, the intensity levels of smoking. Similarly, in case to education level, 0 means illiterate, 1 means literate. This also shows some kind of increasing level, so we can treat it as ordinal. So in this session, I would like to summarize based on these 4 variables. That is what I have mentioned as a case question. Provide the count. So what do we mean by summarizing? The initial summarizing is what we typically do as counting exercise, especially for nominal and ordinal data. So we will try to count how many values of each category are there for each of those variables based on gender, the marital status, the smoking status, as well as education category. So for that we use a procedure. We use the tool of SPSS called the frequencies. Frequencies is an analytical, it's a procedure that is available in SPSS for finding out the counting of various nominal and ordinal variables. So we will get into that process for doing the frequencies of these 4 items. Alright. So let's get into the mechanism. On this data, what we will be doing is we can get into analyze. Under this descriptive statistics, we are seeing frequencies. So whatever are there under this analyze menu item, all these are the various statistical analysis procedures that we can do on the data. We'll try to cover as many as possible from this list. Each of them again has another sub list in it. So to start with, we are starting with the frequencies procedure, which is this one, whose intention is to do the counting of the values as a part of the variables. So I will select this descriptive statistics and frequencies, and here I can choose the nominal and the ordinal variables for which I want to do the summarizations, right? Initially, let me start only with the nominal variables, then I'll take you through the ordinal also. Okay, I'm taking only the nominal variables here, the gender as well as the marital status. And here few more things that can be done. The statistics, I suggest that you use this button statistics only for the tool statistics. Let it be used only for scale variables, because a lot of things that are present as a part of this, which will talk about the percentile, dispersion, central tendency, and all these things, they are generally more relevant and more applicable to a scale data, not nominal or ordinal data. So for the nominal or ordinal, I won't bother about this statistics, but I typically get into this charts. So out of this also, if you are working with either nominal or ordinal data, I suggest that you work only with bar chart and a pie chart. We'll discuss both of them. Pie chart is a pie chart and bar chart. These are the two charts which are appropriate for nominal and ordinal data. Whereas when we are dealing with the scale data, we would be looking at using the histograms also. So for time being, I am selecting the pie chart, right? And we can simply say OK here. So this is how the output comes in SPSS. So we'll try to analyze each and every table that we are getting. Initially, we can look at the chart, right? Let's go to this chart here. Now you see a separate chart being plotted, a pie chart for gender. You go down, a pie chart for marital status, a pie chart. So because we have taken only these two variables, we are getting a separate pie chart along with a better description. Male is in blue color, green is in female, female is in green. Again, in the marital status also, single is represented by blue and something like this. So one thing is, if I have to understand the pie chart, you can very well see that the pie chart is a very good visual tool for assessing the relative frequencies of each category. So if we want something more better, what we can do is we can double click on this pie chart, and under this elements you can ask for the data labels, and this actually helps us in even now you can close this. So here it represents the relative frequencies also. 57.75% of the total data which we have are married, 24.5% of the people are single, 11% of them are divorced, and 6.75% of them are widowed. This is the kind of analysis that, or a quick summary we can get using this pie chart. It's a very good visual representation tool of the relative frequencies. We can also have a look at the frequency table. This is what we call as the frequency tables. Here if we see, there is a separate frequency table for gender, there is a separate frequency table for marital status. But before we get into it, we see here there is a simple summary that is being given saying valid data and missing data. 400 valid under gender and 0 are missing, which means no data is missing as a part of the gender, means all the 400 records have the gender represented in the data. Similarly, when it comes to marital status also, all the 400 records have the marital status and there is no missing value. In case any one or two values are missing, it will show like 398 here and 2 here, which means 2 records people have not entered the gender, or probably 2 records people have not entered the marital status. Something like that will be shown in case our data does not have sufficient, in case that our data does not have an entry corresponding to those variables for 1 or 2 records. But coming to this frequency table, if we see, it is giving us, it is directly giving us the precise frequencies for each category. What does that mean? Here we can easily make out that there are 200 males, 200 females, or here 98 singles are there in the data, 231 people are married, 44 are divorced, and 27 of them are widowed. So you can very well get the frequencies and what is the number in each of the groups, and the same thing in the percentage form. So 50% of the total data is males and 50% of the total data is females. And sometimes if your data is invalid or probably some missing data is there, it will show separately the percentage for valid data, and in the bottom it will show missing data also. Just for example, just for you, for making you understand, what I'll do is the first two records I'll simply remove the gender. For the first two records, I'll remove the gender and rerun the entire process. Now, the rerunning of the last performed process or last few performed processes or procedures can be done from this particular icon also. Recall recently used dialogues. So the frequencies is the procedure which we have used very recently, and these are the two values for which we are computing the frequencies. So I can very well do that. Now you see, for gender there are two missings, 398 are valid, and if you go back to the frequency table also, what we see is for valid and for missing there are two separate categories that are created. In valid, 198 males, 200 females, so total 398 valid are there, and in missing there are two missing values making the total as 400. So the same thing in percentages, but the next thing that makes importance is the valid percent, which means it creates another percentage as the total of only valid elements. Here it says 99.5% of my total data is valid and only 0.5% of it is missing. And when it comes to valid percent, what it does is it re-expresses all these percentages as a proportion of only the valid values, which means this 198 is not divided by 400, it is divided only by 398, and this is what is the valid percentage. And cumulative is nothing but it adds up all the values. So 49.7, then the next one is added to it, making it 100. This cumulative makes a lot of sense when you are working with ordinal data, but with nominal data, cumulative doesn't have much of a meaning here. So these are some of the things that we can execute. And at the same time, instead of a pie chart, I can very well go with a bar chart, and I can even plot the bar chart in the descending order of the frequencies. If I am doing it as a descending order of the frequencies, it even makes the assessment more and more easier. Like as I have mentioned here, if I am ordering it based on the count or on the frequency, it helps me to find the mode. Mode will be looking at the definition of the mode slightly later, but the typical meaning of the word mode is the most frequently occurring value. Most frequently occurring value is what we call as the mode. So we can very well compare the relative frequencies and all very interestingly. So frequency table, you can forget about it. Now look at the bar chart, especially in case of marital status. We could clearly see that this is the order. Married people are much more in number. Single are the next, then the divorced, then the widowed. This is the way, this is the level of fall in the values from married to single to divorced to widowed. So such kind of understanding also comes out much better using the ordinal, using the nominal data also. Now The next thing is, how do I deal with the ordinal data? More or less, this is the same. The whatever you have done in case of nominal, the same thing can be repeated with ordinal, which means you recall the same. Just to make you comfortable, I'm resetting everything, and now I'm selecting the smoking status as well as education category. This time also the statistics does not have any meaning, so I'll go with a bar chart, right? And probably this time I'll use the ascending order of the values itself, not a problem. And now if we see, the same things come out. Non-smoker, there are 133. Occasional smokers, there are 179. But yes, here there is a lot of meaning with cumulative percent. If I say 78 here, I can say that there are 78% of the total people who either who are much lesser than an occasional smoker, which means who either don't smoke or very limited smoking. Only 22% of the people are heavy smokers. Some such kind of, or probably my data is having 61% of the people who are graduates and below. Because there is an ordering in the data, we can very well make these kind of conclusions. 61% of my total people are graduates and below, which means 39% of the population are above graduates. Such kind of simple comparisons also can come out when we are working with ordinal data. Except for that, rest all the things will remain more and more the same. Even if you look at the chart, which is the bar chart, you can very well assess the frequencies of each of the groups. Even in case of education categories, yes, probably there are very few graduates in my group compared to the literates. So such kind of a quick analysis can be done on the ordinal data also. So nominal and ordinal data, when it comes to nominal or ordinal data, some of the important things is, and when we are analyzing the individual variables, we are using the frequencies procedure of SPSS. So along with the frequency table, we are also going either with a bar chart or a pie chart to assess the goodness, to assess the relative frequency levels of each of the values, right, which will help us to see whether any of the values are very rarely occurring or any of the values are very frequently occurring. Such kind of quick analysis can be done before we use them as a part of our next layered analysis, either for making conclusions or for making any further predictions based on the data. So this is a quick summary of doing an analysis on individual nominal and ordinal variables. I hope this basic level of analysis is clear to you. If you have any further queries regarding the same, you can very well get in touch with me by giving me a call on the number here. Along with that, you could even send an email at vamsidhar@pacegurus.com. I can very well get back to you and clear your doubts. Thanks a lot for listening to this session. Thank you very much.